Dobry wieczór wszystkim, witam Was serdecznie. Jest godzina 19, więc śpieszcie się szybko przed komputery, przed Wasze telefony, bo czekamy tutaj na Was, żeby rozpocząć webinar. Moi drodzy, tradycyjnie mamy webinary przedkonferencyjne i mamy z nami gości, którzy będą też na naszej konferencji, więc klasycznie daję Wam minutkę, dwie na spóźnienie i zaraz rozpoczniemy webinar z naszym gościem. A dokładnie co dzisiaj będziemy robić? Opowiem Wam troszkę o naszej konferencji. Już pewnie większość z Was o niej wie, natomiast chcę Wam przypomnieć kilka ważnych informacji, żebyście o nich pamiętali. Oczywiście przedstawię naszego gościa specjalnego, no i będziemy mieli chwilę na tak zwane pytania i odpowiedzi, czyli sesja Q&A, na której możecie pytać mnie pytania i możecie pytać pytania naszego gościa. A naszym gościem dzisiaj jest Hello, Kev.
Good evening.
Kev is our guest today, so I'm switching to English right now. Kev will be at our conference, and he's invited today to share the topic on developing business in reselling, but starting from online arbitrage, moving over to more advanced methods of selling on Amazon. So I'm just, Kev, let's give people like a couple of minutes to join because they always late.
No problem.
I will move on with some information about the conference festival, and then I will obviously would like to ask you some questions about the topic that you're gonna present, which is extremely interesting for everyone and for myself as well. I even said to my husband that he has to watch you today. He has no choice because he's running the Amazon business with me as well. So let's give those people a few minutes. I will talk about the conference and I come back to you in a second.
No problem.
Okay. Moi drodzy, tradycyjnie chciałabym, żebyście przedstawili nam się, powiedzieli skąd jesteście i jeżeli ktoś już z Was coś sprzedaje na Amazonie, postawcie 1, jeżeli ktoś nie sprzedaje, postawcie 2 i napiszcie nam po prostu skąd jesteście i jak dużo tutaj Was jest. Na czym polegają nasze webinary? Na tym, żebyśmy otwarcie dzielili się z Wami wiedzą. Zależy nam na tym, żebyśmy współpracowali z osobami, firmami, które dobrze się znają na tym temacie. I tutaj między innymi macie przykład firm, z którymi współpracujemy, naszych partnerów, którzy bardzo często też są na przeróżnych webinarach z nami. Ale do tematu, ponieważ aktualna seria naszych webinarów odnosi się do konferencji. Chciałabym Wam po raz kolejny przypomnieć, że bilety się bardzo, bardzo szybko sprzedają. Mamy już dosyć dużą ilość uczestników i jeżeli tak dalej pójdzie, możliwe, że bilety się wyprzedadzą przed terminem konferencji. Więc bardzo mocno Was zachęcam, jeżeli macie gdzieś z tyłu głowy to, że chcielibyście wziąć w niej udział, to jest ten czas, żeby już się zdecydować. Ja wiem, że jeszcze mamy w głowie czas przedświąteczny, kiedy staramy się, żeby nasza sprzedaż była jak najlepsza. Natomiast miejcie z tyłu głowy to, co będzie się działo w styczniu, a w styczniu właśnie będzie najlepszy czas na to, żeby pomyśleć, co będziemy robić w 2024 roku. Będziemy mieli masę niesamowitych speakerów, prelegentów. Staraliśmy się uzupełnić każdy sektor wiedzy, który potrzebujecie do prowadzenia swojego biznesu na Amazonie. I dlatego robimy też te webinary, żebyście zapoznali się z naszymi speakerami, żebyście zobaczyli, jak bardzo mocnymi ekspertami w sprzedaży na Amazon są i jak wartościową wiedzą się mogą z Wami podzielić. I teraz pomyślcie, ja robię webinar, który trwa może godzinkę, 40 minut mamy gościa i ten gość przez te 40 minut opowiada Wam co nieco, a ci goście będą dla Was dostępni przez całe 2 pełne dni. Dlatego, że pierwszy dzień mamy cały dzień warsztatów, webinarów, warsztatów, prelekcji, później mamy expert roundtable, czyli sobie usiądziecie do stołu i bezpośrednio pogadacie z ekspertami, później mamy networking i na następny dzień znowu mamy cały dzień prelekcji, w międzyczasie przerwy kawowe, więc to nie jest tylko jak oglądać kogoś na YouTube, to jest naprawdę poznać kogoś, zarazić się od kogoś biznesem, dowiedzieć się bardzo wiele o tym, jak oni się rozwijali, jak rozwijają się firmy, z którymi współpracują i brać z nich przykład, wyciągnąć to, co najlepsze. Więc bardzo mocno zachęcam Was do tego, żebyście wzięli w tym udział, bo po tym evencie wasz świat biznesowy na bank się zmieni. Ja wam to gwarantuję, jeżeli wasz świat się nie zmieni a nie będziecie mieli gotowych do implementacji rad, które możecie wprowadzić do waszego biznesu, które jestem bardziej niż pewna odniosą sukces, to możemy się umówić tak, że my wam zwrócimy kasę za waszą konferencję. Ale to tak wiecie, pół żartem, pół serio. Natomiast najważniejsze info, na co zwróciłam uwagę, o co ludzie mnie często pytają i chciałabym wam dzisiaj właśnie zwrócić na to uwagę, to między innymi, że będzie tłumaczenie na język polski. Więc jeżeli ktoś jest tylko polskojęzyczny, a nasza konferencja będzie się odbywać z naszymi speakerami w języku angielskim, to nie martwcie się, będzie tłumaczenie. Tak samo na networkingu będziemy służyć tłumaczeniem. My osobiście mam kilka osób, które mówią płynnie po angielsku i będą Wam pomagać. Tak samo prelekcje, wszystkie prezentacje. Będzie też relacja na żywo, będzie live streaming, więc jeżeli jest to firma, która nie każda może, nie każdy może przyjechać na konferencję, a szef nie może na przykład, a pracownik może, albo na odwrót, to ta druga osoba może sobie oglądać live streaming. Prezentacje i nagrania będą dostępne po konferencji. I pamiętajcie, są to 2 pełne dni warsztatów, integracji z pełnym wyżywieniem, z networkingiem. No i ja oczywiście tutaj, jak to ja, zawsze wrzucę informację, że będzie open bar, więc dzięki temu będziecie mieli czas na to, żeby się zrelaksować i spędzić wspólnie czas z ekspertami. No i wracając do naszego gościa, więc jeśli pozwolicie, ja już wrócę na język angielski. So I'm switching to English now. I did a little bit of introduction about the conference, about having an open bar at the conference. I'm always laughing at this, but it's a good point to let people know. So we have Kev with us today, and for myself, being an expert in arbitrage, online arbitrage, reselling, wholesale, this is my absolute guru in Amazon business. When I'm watching Kev's YouTube channel, every time I'm so impressed with your energy, with the way you're thinking, and I love the word that you always say, systemize. And obviously, your business is also systemized fulfillment. And the way you build business and you give people advice, it's amazing. So Kev is first of all, he's an Amazon expert. He's been on the market for years. He's got massive YouTube channel and people are following him. And also, he's the owner of the Systemized Fulfillment, which is the prep and fulfillment center in UK and in US. Am I right? In US as well?
In the US as well, and
In the
in
US
one
as
in
well.
Europe as well.
And
Czech
one in
Republic.
Europe. So you see, a lot to take as a one person. I did a little bit of introduction, but from my perspective. But please, Kev, tell us about yourself, about what you do, what's your business, and just tell people something different than I said, maybe.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the kind words that you just mentioned, and I can see some people in the chat as well. I just wanted to give those a shout out. David, Kev, take massive action every day. Martin, I really appreciate Adrian. Thank you so much for your time. It's amazing to be here. I'm very much looking forward to January. So I'll share just a very quick overview of my journey and who I am. My name is Kev Blackburn. We started in 2015. The reason why we started was from a professional point of view. Being an electrical engineer, the business I was working for was struggling, and I was concerned about providing for my family. And I think that is one of the first things that where take massive action every day came from. It was the urgency that I was feeling during those times of, am I going to have a career? Am I not going to have a career? And I was pulled towards ultimately providing for my loved ones. Bearing in mind, at the time, I was 25 years old. So I had another hopefully, touch wood, we have another 40, 50 years, 60 years of our lives. And I didn't know where the future was going to go. So I wanted to start something. I learned about Amazon FBA. We got our first sale in the June of 2015. The day I got my first sale, I was absolutely all in. Every night, every morning, every moment of the day that I could possibly work in my business. And then within 6 months, we were able to quit our careers. We'd actually sold over about 130, 140,000 pounds at that moment in time. Fast forward some months and years, I wanted to start documenting and sharing the journey. We moved into our first warehouse 12 months later, 2,000 square foot warehouse. Continuing to share, continuing to do tours and vlogs around the warehouse. So I'm literally right now inside our 10,000 square foot warehouse here, which we moved in 2020. I've had an amazing journey over the last 9 years. It's been well worth every single moment. It's brought me to amazing people like you guys, and I'm here to provide as much value and support I possibly can to you all tonight.
Something that you mentioned that actually grabbed my attention was providing for the loved ones. I think that's the best motivation in life, to make your life being safe, not only for yourself but also for your family. So I kind of like, obviously, that was like amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So going back to the topic of our webinar today, we announced that we will be talking about the challenges and progress of the business. And obviously, you shared some insights with me before of what we are going to talk about. So you've divided that into three parts, like three phases. So the first one was obviously the phase that is start and messy progress, online arbitrage. You called it perfectly well, because start and messy progress, this is what people feel at the beginning. So can you tell me what's the most common challenges that people face during that initial phase of starting with online arbitrage?
Absolutely. I feel that that first phase, I call it messy, massive action, because it is messy. Life's complicated. We have families, we have careers. There's lots of things in our lives, and the first phase, when you get started, and online arbitrage is how I got started. During that first phase, you're going to experience a number of bottlenecks. You're going to have a challenge of time. There isn't enough time in the day. You may be working in a full-time career. You may have young children. I remember myself, Harper, when I first started, my daughter, she was only 6 months at the time, so only a little baby. And when you are trying to work in a career, have a newborn, as well as start a business, you have no time. So time, that's going to be one of the challenges. And there's a number of things that I can certainly share on how to overcome them. The next thing may be capital. It's ultimately money. And that's something that I personally also had some challenges with, because I didn't have much capital when I started. I actually had access to around about £1,500 on my credit card. So capital may be a challenge. The third thing is then products, ultimately sourcing. That might be a challenge. It's going to be a bottleneck. And the fourth thing that most definitely I experienced at the end of the first phase is space. If you are working from home, the business is going to take over your house. Our living room we actually used to call it our living room warehouse. We had products and packages and bubble wrap and bags and you name it. It was all around the house. So if you could picture my home in 2015, we had a Harper who was between 6 months and 12 months. We had products everywhere, and it was a very fun Christmas.
Oh my gosh, you actually told me my story. You mentioned credit card. Yes, credit card. First payment from our credit card was £600. for the stock. And a little child, ours was 2 years old. And I remember she was going to bed about 8 p.m. We were sat both on a sofa and working till like midnight. And again, next day going to full-time job and then back again in the evening. So that's true. That's true. I can confirm 100%. This is what's going to happen for majority of people. And how would you keep your motivation high? Obviously, we said about providing for the loved ones, but that's high motivation. But I know that many people struggle when I train them on how to sell on Amazon. They always say, "I want to give up because I cannot find the relevant product." And what should I do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I believe it's so important to try to set up your life the best you possibly can, in terms of reminding yourself as many places that you possibly can why you do what you do. So I call it my massive action ecosystem. So during those, and I still do it to this day actually, but during those first 1 year, 2 years, where it is very difficult, it is very hard, we will go through some strategies and things on how you can overcome those bottlenecks. But you have to remind yourself, because that might be, for example, you've got a screen, a phone screensaver on your phone. Maybe it's on your laptop. Maybe you have posters on the wall. It's the music that you listen to. Everything that you possibly can every day to remind yourself on why you are doing this. And then the most important thing is to try simplifying the progress and the momentum that you're building. So instead of breaking down, looking at this huge mission that you have, where I want to quit my career, I want to build a big business. If you would have said to me in 2015 that we would have access to over 120,000 square foot of warehouse, I would be sat and stood, hanging about with you guys tonight in a 10,000 square foot warehouse, I just wouldn't have believed you. And it's because I was looking at every single day, trying to just focus on the day, making one step progress that I can. And I brought that down to just trying to make one step of progress every day. I call it a growth task. So when it comes to time, for example, I realized the minute it was like, okay, I'm going to start taking massive action. This is urgent for me. I need to make this happen. Immediately, nothing else was really important. Immediately, I didn't really go out during that time. I would wake up earlier. I would stay up later. I would squeeze as much of the day I possibly could. I became extremely focused on how I'm using my time. And because before then, I would come home, I would maybe watch a bit of TV, I would maybe go out with some friends, I would just scroll on my phone. And the minute that you commit, and this is something that you must do, you have to start becoming very strategic with your time. That means making appointments with yourself. I realized that whenever, for example, in the past that I had like a doctor's appointment, I would be there on time for a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment. I would be there on time. So instead, what you want to do is start making appointments with yourself. You want to say, okay, between 6 and 7 p.m., I am working on this. Between 8 and 9 p.m., I am working on this, and trying to be as very strategic with your time as much as possible. And then it's a case of every day, just keep making progress. And, just know that everybody's running their own race. You don't have to compare yourself to anybody. This is your life. This is your business. This is your own race. Some people, it might take 6 months. Some people, it might take 6 years. But at the end of the day, this is the one lifetime that we have. And I knew straight away at the start, I was 25 years old. I'm in this for the next 40 years. So it was a case of just being as strategic as I possibly could every single day and just make one step of progress. And then in my mind, from an engineering background, I understood logic in terms of I understood that 1 + 1 = 2. But those first few weeks and the first few months, I was very hard on myself. I was thinking to myself, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. Have I done enough today? Have I done enough today? And you start to really like beat yourself up. But when you look at the work that you were doing, you're doing a lot of work. So try in your own businesses, in your own lives, try setting yourself up a formula that what makes a great day. So for me, it was like, if I could do 3 growth tasks, if I could do 3 things today, then at the end of the day, I would give myself a pat on the back and say, I had a great day today, because that was really important. Otherwise, you start to think, am I doing enough? Am I not getting enough done? And it's really important to build your self-confidence that you are moving forward. Does that make sense?
I'm glad you've mentioned that, because many people think that things should be easy at the beginning. I'm always far away from saying you work on a holiday destination only 2 hours a day. All this, videos that gives you this fake view of being an e-commerce seller. Um, that might happen at some point, obviously, but the first few months, years, depending on situation, that will be it. You have to keep motivating yourself, and it will be hard work. So not to give up as well, because if something fails, you just have to learn from the mistake and move forward. It doesn't work, I do it in a different way. So really good. I'm glad you've mentioned that. So considering that was the first phase, and you mentioned about the second phase as well. So this is a time when we are like past the first phase, and more or less we do this online arbitrage. Everything is quite okay. And when you are moving to the wholesale, as a business transition to the wholesale, what systems and processes would be the most important for moving into wholesale? How to manage that?
Yeah, great question. And let me give you a bird's eye view first of why introducing wholesale and then further on exclusive brand deals, etc., things that we'll talk about, is very, very important. Is because if you're going to get started on Amazon, and if you start with, I never did retail arbitrage, but if you did retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, or whatever the model that you decide to choose, you've got to see yourself, where are you going to be over the next 10 years? You've got to see the roadmap ahead. And the reason why wholesale is a necessary step is because it is the more mature. You are making the step up as, if you imagine a graph, which is, you've got the x-axis as time, the first year to 10 years. And then if you imagine the level of protection and difficulty, everybody can start online arbitrage. You're going to face competition. There's going to be difficulty. There's the Amazon landscape is very different now in this year than it was in 2015. There's a lot more involved. It was much, I don't want to say easier, but it was much easier to get started. There was there wasn't much brand restrictions. Amazon wasn't as mature as it is today. But as you go in your journey and you are building this business to last a lifetime, right? The next 10, 20 years, you're building a legitimate business that you can, build proudly. You want to mature and go to the next level. So introducing a wholesale, it's very, very important. So the reason why is because you can start to build relationships with suppliers. You can actually speak to suppliers. You can have meetings with suppliers. When you can actually speak and have an account manager and you can build a relationship with suppliers, it can work into a great relationship where you can then negotiate discount, for example. You can go into negotiations with them. Whereas in online arbitrage, you can't do that. You have a checkout. You're not speaking to anybody. Whereas when you have a meeting with an account manager because you're opening a wholesale account, it becomes person to person. You are building rapport with somebody else, where over time you can then start to negotiate discounts, whether that is based on volume, etc. Not to mention, when you've got great relationships, they may contact you with potential product opportunities. They might have a product that is maybe going on clearance or a new product, and once you've got that rapport, they may send you an email or send you make a phone call to you saying, "Are you interested in this particular product that we just have in stock?" This is very powerful compared to just online arbitrage. So, in terms of getting to that and introducing wholesale, here's what I did. Our business started online arbitrage, and I split the business up into different stages. And the reason why I did that was because I know that at scale, you have to systemize your business. And so what I did is I took online arbitrage and I was like, what are the major systems of online arbitrage? Sourcing, purchasing, and shipping. They're the three major systems. Then you've got some what I call maintenance and growth systems. These are your replenishing systems, your inventory health systems. Now, there's a lot of different stages around it, but what that allowed me to see visually, and I remember myself on a whiteboard, and I encourage you guys to do this as well. I'm a very visual person. I just wrote on a whiteboard online arbitrage, and then I split that up into a big puzzle. Like, what are the different stages of online arbitrage? And then you can then start assigning times to things, like what's taking the most time. What can be outsourced? Can I have a virtual assistant team member that I could hire to look after this section of the business? And that was very, very important, because you may be starting online arbitrage and you're doing everything. You're sourcing, you're purchasing, you're shipping, you're doing your account health, you are making sure that you've got your shipment reconciles, you're making sure that you've got customer messages, you're the accountant, you are absolutely everything. What you have to do then is start to delegate and ultimately start to build a team. When you start to build your team, that isn't the time for you to go to the beach or drink cocktails. That's the time for you to now start preparing your business for wholesale. And there's a number of strategies that you can use for that. Number one, you don't have to have a website, but you can build a website. Building a website can help build the story of when you are reaching out to wholesalers. Instead of saying to the wholesaler, hello, my name is Kev and I'm an Amazon seller, you want to build a story around it. You are not just an Amazon seller. You are an e-commerce seller. You are a retailer. Okay. So what you can say is like, hello, my name is Kev and I'm calling you from systemizedtoys.co.uk. And they are then going to be interested because they want to sell to you. A wholesaler wants to sell to a retailer. Then you can have a bit of a story. You can say, we founded our business in 2015. We started off at home. We've now got a warehouse, and we love to build relationships with suppliers. What can we do in terms of opening an account? Could I open an account with you? And at that point, the Amazon seller may not have even come up in the conversation at that moment in time. They may just send you over forms and start opening accounts with you. If they do say, do you sell on Amazon? Then I would always suggest not to lie, always be, truthful. But you can say, I am an e-commerce seller, so I do use multiple platforms. I use Amazon, I use eBay, and I use Shopify, and I've got my own website and Facebook shop, and I've got my own warehouse where people can come and collect. So I would never suggest to lie about you just an Amazon seller, or you're not an Amazon seller, sorry. But at that point, you can start to open up and build connections. And at that point, once you've got an account and you start getting stock lists, then it becomes very similar to from an online arbitrage point of view, but you've now got a big stock list. You've got a big stock list that you can potentially get a team member to go through, you could go through, and you start to potentially find profitable products from a wholesaler. Now, the wonderful thing, like I said right at the start with wholesale, is you do have the potential to negotiate discounts. Now, one of the things that I have always recommended is when you get a stock list, and you get the product list with all the products and the barcodes and the pricing and what they're selling it for. What I would recommend that you did is create a couple of extra columns with minus 5% discount, minus 10% discount, minus 15% discount, and just do calculations on what the pricing would be for them. Then what you can do is when you look through the stock list, and for example, you have their normal pricing, you may have an order for £500, 500 euros, okay? But then you can potentially have an order value of 800 euros, 800 pounds if they were to give you a 10% discount. And then you give the option to them. You can say, I'd love to place an order. I've got 500 pounds here. However, if you were able to honor the discount, I would be able to increase that order to 800 euros, 800 pounds. At that point, that could, then you're putting it into their court. They could refuse. They could say, no, that's not happening. Then what you can say is, what needs to happen for this to happen? And they might say, look, if you place orders for the next 6 months, if you've built relationship with us for the next 6 months, if you become a regular customer of ours, then we might have another conversation in 6 months' time. And at that point there, you're starting to build the relationship and the negotiation skills. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. You have already put on a table like a number of tips that people now can go out and implement from tomorrow. So even like I bet there will be people who will sit down right now with their stock list and they will be doing columns with discounts. I bet they will. I'm glad you've mentioned that. I sometimes do mention about that as well, about negotiations, and obviously you can go out to the supplier and say, look, I'm not buying 5 products from you. I'm buying 10,000, 1,000, whatever. What can you do with the price? If you have a good price, we can both make profit. If the price isn't good, then we both not making any profit. So
Now
that's amazing.
that does come with a bit of a warning and a bit of a disclaimer there. What you don't want to do is when you first meet somebody for the first time, you don't want to immediately go in and say, give me discounts, right? You don't want to do that because you haven't earned the rapport, you haven't earned the relationship yet. So you may want to just place the first order first, and then they know you're serious. The quickest way that a wholesaler will take you seriously is by placing an order. The minute you place an order, they know you are now serious. And it might mean that you place an order first and say, we love doing business. We love doing business with you. We're building for the long-term relationship, and I'll be back with you next month, and I might have a bigger order, and then they're going to be excited to hear from you again. You might want to exchange your mobile number, share with them. Look, if you want to contact me, here's my direct mobile number. If you have any stock that comes in, if there's anything on clearance, if you've got any special offers, let me know because I'm here to buy from you. And then the wholesaler, the account manager, he is or she is loving you. She is going to be like, because that's what they need to do. They need to sell to you, right? So that's what I would recommend.
Yes, I agree with you. It's not about like scaring people up front. But yes, I was on the other side as well. I was working in sales, and in sales, we do appreciate people purchasing and having that direct contact and being honest with you. And now, team, you've mentioned about building team, but I know like people do talk to me about that they are afraid of building team, giving them like passing the whole knowledge they have, contact details, the situations when obviously you as a boss, you cannot do everything. At some point, you have to delegate tasks. And sometimes this is quite sensitive data. And the know-how of the business, how you run it. How do you handle this? Because I think that's the biggest challenge for people when they develop.
I understand. I understand. I mean, I remember feeling the same emotions. I remember feeling the same frictions, if you like. What if this happens? What if they do this? What if that happens? What if they steal my money? What happens if they do this? There's a lot of what ifs. So here's my couple of tips. First of all, it's easier said than done, but it's very important to recognize that you and your business are not the same. You are completely separated entities. So there's me and my business, and you are the owner and the representative of the business. And therefore, you have to attempt to attach emotion out of it. You have to become more logical. Okay, so here's a couple of tips straight away. Number one is, if you've never hired anybody before, if you've never outsourced anything before, then just know that you learn as you go, right? Nobody is perfect. You learn from your experiences. I've made a lot of failures. I fail every single day. I'm taking massive action, but a byproduct of that is failure. But one of the first things that I did was I recognized that I could actually hire somebody. One of my first virtual assistants, he was actually only with me for around about 2-3 hours a day. It wasn't full time. It wasn't Monday to Friday, 40 hours a week, because I was like, do I have the capital to be able to invest that amount? So I actually found a great team member called Harry. Is actually still with me to this day. So he's been with me now for the last 7 years. He's been an absolute rock star, superstar in our business. And he started with only 2 hours a day. And during that time, one of the things that you want to do is you want to sell the vision. You want to describe the vision for them. You are the entrepreneur. You are the visionary of your business. So you want to say, look, this is what we're building. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be an amazing journey. And not only what the business is going to do for you and the business, but what it's going to do for them, right? If you join this mission, it's going to change your life. Like, look how amazing this is going to be. You can build a career, and I'm building a team, not just for today, not just for next month. I'm building a business for, to provide careers for decades to come. So that's one of the first couple of things. The next thing is just know that I always think that there does become an element of, you've got to give trust, and you've got to have faith, right? So if I'm training a team member, a brand new team member, on how we work and how we do it, and the operations that we have, if I had the approach, or if you had the approach of, what if this happens, and what if they take my knowledge, and what happens if they run away and they're not working with, then you wouldn't get very far. It would prevent you taking action. So it's about pushing forward into the unknown, having faith, and having that trust that you are building a superstar team to help you.
Well, I could listen to you all the time. Really, it's so motivating, and like putting everything in order for thinking about things. And this faith and your vision and your energy, because I also sometimes have situations when people let me down and I lose my faith. But obviously, then on the other hand, I think I'm not gonna grow. The business is not gonna grow. I can't do everything myself, and I have to back on the track of believing in people. Um, so how
Let me,
about yeah?
sorry.
Go on.
Let me give you a quick real life story and a quick example of this. So in February of 2016, we had just quit our career, and we had just hired Harry, one of my first senior assistants, virtual assistant. I just met him for the first time, and one of my objectives and one of my goals was to outsource purchasing. Okay, for somebody else to purchase on behalf of the business, not just me. And as you can imagine, there was a number of limiting beliefs and potentially negative emotions around that. What happens if he steals my money? What happens if he buys the wrong products? What happens if he does this? And what happens if he does that? And then the way I overcome that was, it was kind of like, if you imagine a table, okay, a table, and the story you're telling yourself is propped up with legs of the table. Now, if you've got a lot of legs on the table, then it's going to be a very strong table. It's going to be a very strong story. So what I did is I literally drew, again on the whiteboard, because I'm very visual, on the whiteboard, I drew a table and I drew legs on this table. So on the top of it, I put outsource purchasing. And then I give every reason why I can't outsource purchasing to Harry or another team member. What happens if they steal my money? What happens if they buy the wrong stock? What happens if they, credit card fraud? What happens if this and what happens if that? And then I started to really think about each individual one of them. What happens if Harry does purchase the wrong stock? Okay, if he purchases the wrong stock, then you've got systems in place that can actually share with you that he's purchasing the wrong stock. Let me give you an example of one of those systems. You've got your, what I call inventory health, which is your inventory age, right? The inventory age of your stock. If that starts to rise, as in products are not selling, then that's an indicator. It's a key performance indicator that something's going wrong because you're not selling your stock. The other thing was, what happens if he took my credit card and started purchasing, in India and in his own life? Well, I have a bookkeeper, right? We have an accountant. We have every transaction is accounted for. Secondly, if he did commit fraud, in actual fact, I'd rather him do it straight away. If you're going to break the trust, let's just get it over and done with and commit fraud today. Because one, I'd know about it, because one, it'd be on the credit card statement, and two, I could then actually contact the credit card company and say to them, I've just had fraud on my account and I don't know what these transactions are. They would then protect you and reimburse you for what's happening there. Okay, so over the 5 months from February to around about June of 2016, I was going through outsourcing purchasing. And what actually happened was, the month that I actually outsourced purchasing for the first time, our purchases and our spend doubled. It doubled from 1 month to another. The reason for that is because when I was purchasing, I'd been purchasing for 8, 9, 10 months. I was experiencing what I call purchasing fatigue, where every day you're on the computer, you are purchasing, you are making baskets. And I was pushing purchasing further and further in the day. I used to start at 10 a.m., then I'd go to 11 a.m., then I'd go to 1 p.m., and then I'd go to 3 p.m. And what ended up happening is I was actually causing the business to suffer, because one, some products would go out of stock, or I wouldn't be able to purchase those products anymore because they're out of stock. I wasn't as purchasing fatigue. It was like, okay, I've got to get on the computer again.
Yeah.
I was also potentially sometimes I would go, I should purchase 20 units, but I'll only purchase 10 units instead of 20 units. I should purchase 100 units, but I'll actually only purchase 50 units instead of 100 units. As soon as I outsourced purchasing, Harry now looked at it from, we've got to purchase 100 units, we'll purchase 100 units. We've got to purchase 20 units, we'll purchase 20 units. We've got to purchase 500 units, we'll purchase 500 units. And our purchasing doubled in 1 month. Subsequently, our sales doubled in the next month too.
Yeah. I agree with you. Sometimes, like, I remember times when we just were lacking time on doing things, and it was a time when we started getting people in and outsourcing, and but yes, that's important. And now, once we have those two phases established and everything is working well, we have a team, we have wholesale, we have online arbitrage, we have the third phase, which I think might be very complex, maybe complicated for some people. So you mentioned about diversify long term, so other markets, own website. You mentioned already about your own website, affiliate marketing, product services, building towards long term, private label branding, because obviously you want to develop, you want to move further. Considering this stage, when do you think it would be the right time to start adding those additional aspects in your business?
Great question. I believe that there is some personal milestones that myself, you, or other people will go through. The first milestone is trying to get to the milestone of being able to quit your career. If you're in a career right now, that has to be the first milestone. The issue with being successful enough to be able to quit your career, you are now solely dependent on your business on Amazon. Now, I experienced this in a very negative way. In 2017, I actually experienced an Amazon suspension for around about 36 to 48 hours. Now, I ended up overcoming that suspension and I ended up resolving the situation. However, that was my real life experience of my sales dropping to zero. And at that moment in time, I had a team, I had a warehouse, we had operations, and our sales dropped to zero. That is when I discovered the third phase of I need to, how do I diversify? Now, that doesn't mean, for me personally, that you start doing something completely different. You go from one industry to another. Let's try to give you an example. I don't know. You go from e-commerce in terms of Amazon FBA to now you want to do a marketing agency, right? It's completely a different field. What you want to do is you want to build an umbrella around the same industry. Now, one of the first things that I did was I realized the great tools that I was using Buybot Pro, for example. I was using these great tools that we have access to, and all of them had an affiliate program with them. So at that time, I was like, well, I'm using these tools. These tools are amazing for me. I use them every day in my business. Why don't I sign up for the affiliate program and share how I'm using these tools? And if I'm able to create a win-win-win bonus in terms of a relationship for me, for the service provider, and potentially you, and say, look, I use this tool. This is how I use this tool. If you use this tool, then it can help your business too. If you go through my link, then all of a sudden you start to build some potentially recurring affiliate commissions. That then can start to make the costs in your business, the expenses in your business, into an actual income. So picture this. So if you're now spending, let's say, on a repricer, and let's say, for example, you're spending 50 euros a month, that's an expense to you. It's a vital expense because you are using a repricer. But what happens if you become an affiliate for that repricer because you're using them, and now it's not an expense, they are now actually paying you? That's a very smart way of doing business. And that's what I started to do. I started to go, okay, I want to provide value. I want to share. This is how I'm using things. This is what we're doing in our business. And I started to provide different tools. So that's from an affiliate marketing point of view. But all the connective diversification that you do is all still within e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on.
No, in terms of building into, let's say, your own website.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe that the long term business models that will be around in 10, 20 years will always be either private label, like a brand, you own in a brand, okay, because brands have been around for decades. If you think of Amazon's a brand, if you think of Nike as a brand, Adidas is a brand, Tesla's a brand. So I believe that brand is very, very important. If you don't want to build your own brand, you can, and something that I'm going to talk about at the conference is go into what we call exclusive brand deals. This is now when you are building a relationship with a brand that you haven't created, and you go in partnership together. And if the brand owner, you've built a great relationship with the brand owner, they can actually give you authorization to sell their brand on the Amazon marketplace. And you can then unlock the brand registry in your account on behalf of other brands. So there's two paths there. You either create your own brand, or if that's not for you and you don't know what to do and you don't know what brand to create, you could potentially partner with other brands that they might not know Amazon as well as you. The brilliant thing is, when you're building an online arbitrage business, a wholesale business, you are becoming an expert on Amazon. You know Amazon probably more than 98% of the population of the world, right? Because you are looking at Amazon every day. You're selling on Amazon every day. You are analyzing Amazon every day. So you are looking at listings. You are looking at sellers rank. You are looking at review and ratings. You are looking at all these things. You're understanding what is successful on Amazon. And there are many brands in the world that don't have the knowledge that you have. And if you're able to present that in a great way, which I'm going to explain at the conference, and I'm going to have some templates and reports and some great tools that you can use to do this at the conference in January. That's why I'm really excited to see everybody there in person. You could actually negotiate you becoming an exclusive brand owner. And that is gonna help you over the next 10, 20 years. So as Amazon continue to change and develop and their policies change, and difficulties with online arbitrage or competition, you don't have any competition. It becomes you and the brand.
I'm glad you've mentioned that, because like when I started working on Amazon, there was like almost no restrictions for us selling. Now there are more and more. And working closely with the brands, sometimes we're just not made for producing and creating the brand. Sometimes you just don't want to bother with manufacturing and I don't know, the complexity of the product and making sure that everything is fine. So there is another company who takes care of that, who takes care of the branding, and this branding can be successful. It can even be your neighbor who is actually building a great brand, great product, and then you can become his ambassador on Amazon, who is actually building the brand on Amazon. So I'm glad you've mentioned that, because like I know that some people just can't be bothered with going through the production and designing product, but they are very good in selling on Amazon. They are perfect. They know exactly Amazon inside out. And yes, I can't wait for your speech at the conference, because I'm very interested in your approach to the whole process of doing this. Um, I can share that I do a little bit of that. Well, majority for me is doing my own label or private label. Then I'm obviously majority of my inventory is reselling, but we also work with brands a little bit as well. And I'm very interested in how other people do it, because when I started doing this, I was like building my own way of working with such a brands. So I can't wait to listen to your experience. I can share my experience. So I can't wait. And you've answered like most of my questions, being honest with you, looking at the questions I had. Um, what would you say to people? Because just to give you like a hint about the conference, there are a number of people who are considering coming to the conference, but they are at a very early stage. And they are worried that the level of knowledge, the level of expertise that is being shared on a conference may be too difficult for them. I did already do some speeches about how in the past such conferences and meetups had massive impact on my business positively. But please tell those people, that they don't have to worry about that, what would be the content, and they always take something out of this conference.
Absolutely. I would also agree. One of the fundamental common experience that I've had since we started was connecting with like-minded individuals, being going from, you know, YouTube's fantastic. Being on your phone and watching videos is fantastic. You know, being able to connect like this through the internet is fantastic. But there's something special that happens when you are in person. There's something amazing that happens when you meet people in person and you are able to feel the energy of the room. And I can't speak for all you guys here, but what I do know is, you know, in my town and where I live, there aren't many. There's lots of people here, obviously, but there aren't many people that I can speak to in terms of, you know, what difficulties that we're facing and the challenges that we're facing, and like in our world in terms of e-commerce and Amazon and entrepreneurship and taking massive action every day. There's not many people that I can talk to. But when you then go to a conference and you've got amazing people, then I'm really looking forward to meeting every one of you and you know, having the opportunity to shake your hand and have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something like that together. Something incredible happens, even if it's just your energy and you're inspired and you're able to you know, you have more belief that it's possible, because there's going to be real life people there that were once where you was. And that is one of the first things that all of us need, is belief that it's possible and belief that I can do this. Does that make sense? Right?
Completely.
And I look at some of the people that I have the pleasure of being friends with now, or the conferences and the seminars that I've been to. I was literally just to one this past Monday, and every single one of those people are so kind. They're so generous. They want everybody to win.
Mm. I think everyone is sharing experience and this atmosphere. Like like I always bring it to some our webinars. My first conference I went to, it was small meetup in London, but there were like major players like Fee Advisor, uh, Cynthia from US as well about the compliance, lots of people. And then I met people who were actually doing business as a one person, multi-millionaire like business. And I went there. I thought I'm doing quite well on Amazon. I went there and I was feeling like, I'm so behind. But I was learning. I was like taking everything that they offered me. And on the way back, I was already living back in Poland. On the way back, I can't even remember my trip to the airport and my time on the plane. I was reading everything that they gave me. And I was so, I don't know how to even explain this. I just, I was so motivated, so full of energy. And this energy that they gave me, and knowledge is a one thing, atmosphere is another thing, this kindness of people is also very important, and they can take example from you, from your stories. I'm glad you've told us about your life story, about your challenges that you had to that you are facing during your business life, because I bet the people will feel much better about their challenges, and it's possible to overcome them. But I have some questions for you here from
Love it.
David. So David is saying, I just need to read in Polish. 1 second. Okay. Kev was creating some spreadsheets for online arbitrage and was selling them, and I was wondering if you have such a thing for wholesale. Yes, because earlier he was asking if you have any dedicated spreadsheets for wholesale, and I've asked him to develop this question. The yeah, for online arbitrage, and if you have the spreadsheets for the wholesale.
Okay, so I think he's referring to the online arbitrage, the master templates that I had. I don't have the wholesale templates available. However, I will take that from tonight's call and see if we can make some templates out of the sheets that we use.
Cool, brilliant. And he's asking another question. He's actually a big fan of you. I can share that.
I appreciate that.
He is. I know David. David is one of our best performing students on our course, I would say, on my course. And he's always telling me about you, how impressed he is with you as a business owner and Amazon seller. So
David, I think David's going to be there in January.
he will be there. Yes, he was one of the first ones who bought ticket. Yes.
Fantastic. I look forward to meeting you, David, very soon.
He is a really great person in terms of the business and the mindset that he has for the business. And he's asking if you are using special softwares for managing your inventory, for monitoring your stock, and analyzing how much stock you have to order.
Yeah, great question. I would always recommend Seller Toolkit now. I don't know whether you've heard of Seller Toolkit. I assume that you have STK. Quick story on Norm, the founder of STK. I actually met Norm in 2016. He was actually one of our first prep partners. And he was an Amazon seller himself. I'm not sure whether he is now, but he knows this business inside out. So I'd highly recommend to go to Seller Toolkit.
Perfect. Do you have some referral link? Affiliate marketing link?
Yeah, I mean,
That would
I
be
will. I'll send you the link, and then if you wanted to share that, Norm's a great guy though, and it's a great tool.
Okay, cool. And David said if you can bring one of your jumpers in size medium, he will buy it with pleasure.
Yeah, so you're going to so I have the pleasure of actually speaking on day 1 and day 2. So I'm really excited to have 2 days, but I can guarantee that one of the days I will be in my Take Massive Action Everyday hoodies, and we will bring a medium over for you.
I bet he will appreciate it. So yes, like Kev said, for everyone to know, he will be speaking on the day 1 and on day 2. So you have to bear in mind that you're not only coming for one day, you have to come for 2 days. So even though you know, because it's Friday and Saturday, so we're not taking Saturday off. This Saturday it's gonna be a hard working but very, very successful Saturday. So we have to prepare for that. Let me check if we have any more questions. Yeah, David said thank you. He will prepare questions for live meeting, and he says thank you, Kevin. So
Oh,
it's
thank
well
you.
initiated.
I appreciate your energy. It's I can feel the energy coming through the screen. I appreciate that.
Yes, there will be lots of energy. You can see that we don't have any more questions. You've been amazing, Kev. I knew that this webinar is gonna be a life changer for many, and even now I can't even wait for meeting you in Warsaw. Um, we are counting days, really. We are counting days. We can't wait because it's something that never happened in Poland before, and I am a bit emotional about that because I always travel for such events abroad, and now we are doing our best to bring everyone here to Poland, and I'm extremely happy you will be here. I can't wait to meet you in person. It's funny that we've never met before in person in any other event, but definitely there will be some time for people to speak to you. Um, I hope people will get ready for the expert roundtable because you will get plenty of questions at the expert roundtable. So I can't see any
We
more
are,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are. Just one final note here. We are very, very excited. Myself, Gareth, and Nathan are going to be taking over Team Massive Action. We will be there. Really looking forward to the full experience. I cannot wait to meet yourself as well, and all the speakers, and just connect with everybody that's there. It's amazing what happens when you go to an event such as this one. I've personally never been to Poland or the city, so I'm just really looking forward to just to being there, experiencing everything, and yeah, it's a fantastic, it's an amazing way to start the year, because that first month, I call it planting massive seeds. Okay, for the year, you've got to plant massive seeds in those first 1-2 months of the year. And what better way than coming to a conference? I can't wait to hear all the other speakers and all the expertise that's going to be there, because I'm like you. I'm going to be learning. I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be doing everything I can, because we are still on our journey, and ultimately on the mission that we have.
Exactly. The Amazon is such a machine that is moving forward, and we have to move forward with this machine in order to be able to stay on the top with everything. So, Kev, thank you so much for being today and sharing all the tips and knowledge, your energy. Um, Again, we'll see everyone at the conference. Thank you everyone for being with us. Dziękujemy Wam wszystkim za Waszą obecność. Tym, którzy będą nas oglądać później, tak samo dziękujemy za to, że macie chęci spędzać z nami czas i mam nadzieję do zobaczenia na konferencji. Do widzenia wszystkim.